Dreykov sipped his tea, the warmth doing little to chase away the ever-present chill of the Ural Mountains. He stood before the massive glass wall of his private office, high above the rest of the underground command center. From here, he could see everything: the control room, the training floors, the surveillance feeds displaying his network of bases worldwide. For decades, he had built the Red Room into something untouchable. A shadow empire that stretched across governments, economies, and battlefields. Assassins, informants, and agents. All threads woven into the fabric of global power. No war happened without him knowing. No country moved without someone whispering in his ear. He smiled to himself. They thought they could take him down before, they were wrong. A soft chime echoed through the room. Dreykov turned his head slightly as Colonel Vasily Ivanov, his head of security, strode toward him. Report. Routine checks, sir, Ivanov replied, standing at attention. Surveillance is stable, all communications are running normally. Our assets in Washington and Beijing confirm that there are no external investigations into our operations. Dreykov nodded. Good. And the widows? 14 active in the field, 32 in rotation here at the main facility. All protocols remain intact. Perfect. Dreykov took another slow sip, exhaling through his nose. Nothing could touch them. Then everything collapsed. It started with a flicker. One of the surveillance feeds glitched, just for a second. Barely noticeable, then another, then all of them. The main screen in the control center stuttered before stabilizing. The officers below exchanged uneasy glances, fingers flying over keyboards as they attempted diagnostics. Dreykov's grip tightened around his glass. What is happening? Sir, an officer called out, voice laced with confusion. We're detecting. The main map of the Red Room's operational network went black, all of it, every facility. Every server. Every communications relay, gone. Dreykov's blood turned to ice, the control room exploded into chaos. Officers shouted over each other, scrambling for answers. Error messages flooded the screens. Every attempt to re-establish contact failed. No. No, no, no. One of the senior technicians slammed his fists on the desk. It's not just a communications blackout. The systems, our entire network, it's not there anymore. What do you mean, not there? Ivanov barked, stepping forward. I mean it's been wiped. Deleted. Every system, every backup, every off-site server. Dreykov's fingers twitched. He forced himself to remain still, to keep his face expressionless. This was impossible. Even if someone had attacked a base, they would have received warnings, distress calls, encrypted messages, anything. Instead, they had received nothing, because someone had made sure of it. Then came the first security alert: Siberia base, offline. Dreykov's throat went dry. Another alert: New York hub, offline. Then another: Moscow, offline. Cairo, offline. Hong Kong, offline. The alerts piled up, one after the other, cascading across the screen like a digital avalanche. Every hub. Every sub-base. Every safehouse, all gone. It was as if every last piece of the Red Room had been erased at the exact same time. Dreykov's teacup slipped from his fingers, shattering against the floor. Who did this? He whispered, voice barely audible over the panic in the control room. No one answered. The realization settled in like a lead weight in his stomach. Whoever had done this wasn't just attacking them, they had planned this for a long time. They had infiltrated his system so deeply that they had been feeding false reports, creating a loop to make everything appear normal, until now, until the moment they decided to end it. Dreykov turned sharply to Ivanov. Activate full lockdown. I want every widow on standby. If they could take down everything without us knowing, then there's a possibility that they are already here. If there is even a single breach, I want to know about it. A new alarm blared, high-pitched and deafening, not a cyber attack. A physical breach. Dreykov's hands curled into fists. Where? A terrified officer turned from his console. Sir. It's coming from above. The first explosion came from the north wing. A controlled blast, just enough to cave in the tunnel leading to the armory, cutting off security's access to heavier weapons. Then, the lights flickered. For a brief moment, everything plunged into total darkness. Then, the emergency lights activated, bathing the base in an eerie red glow. Shadows twisted along the walls. Gunfire, explosions. Sudden silence. Something was in the base. Someone, Ivanov, was barking orders, mobilizing the soldiers. He ordered the widows to move. It wouldn't matter. Dreykov watched the security feeds. Fear was something he never knew. Heck, he was the fear, until now. Droplets of sweat appeared on his forehead. His men were dying, not in firefights, not in battle, they were being hunted. The first team of guards vanished in the northern corridors. A black figure moved through the red haze, fast and silent. Bodies dropped before they could scream. Another group, elites this time, stationed at the south gate. They raised their rifles, scanning the shadows. Something moved in the darkness above them. A single shot rang out. One man crumpled. The others turned, only to be yanked violently into the air, their bodies smashing against the walls before collapsing in a heap. Who the hell was this? Dreykov's fingers dug into the armrest of his chair. Get me visuals. The cameras flickered, struggling to keep up with the movement. But for a fraction of a second, one frame captured a silhouette. Not a widow. Not a soldier. Not one of theirs. The figure wore a black suit. No insignia. No markings. A metal gauntlet gleamed under the emergency lights, shifting as the figure flexed its fingers. Around him lay the broken dead bodies of his men and unconscious widows. Then, the person looked up and tilted his head, right at the camera, and showed them the middle finger. The feed cut to static. Dreykov's heart pounded in his chest. This wasn't a random strike force. This wasn't SHIELD or any other agencies. This was something else, someone else, a personal grudge. But who? When? Why? Too many questions assaulted his mind, yet no answers. Sir. Dreykov turned as Ivanov rushed toward him. The intruder is non-lethal against the widows, but he's executing the rest of our forces. We have reports of close-quarters combat, guards taken out before they can fire a shot. Dreykov's breath was shallow. His empire, his life's work, was being dismantled before his eyes, but he was still here, and as long as he lived, the Red Room lived. He straightened his spine. Activate the final protocol. Ivanov hesitated. Sir, he is not ready. If we get him out before the synchro process, do it. Ivanov swallowed hard, then turned to the nearest console, inputting the necessary commands. Dreykov exhaled slowly. Whoever this was, they had underestimated him. They thought they were hunting him, but he had spent decades being the hunter, and he wasn't done yet. Deep containment level. The alarm's shrill wail echoed down the cold steel corridors of the Red Room's most classified sublevel. Rows of cryogenic pods lined the chamber, each one filled with failed experiments, discarded weapons of war frozen in time, but at the very end of the chamber stood one pod that was different. Larger. Reinforced. Adorned with heavy locks and warning symbols in bold red Cyrillic letters, Danger, Omega. Inside, submerged in freezing stasis fluid, was a monster in the making, Arkady Grigorovich Rossovich. Arkady Grigorovich Rossovich was known to be a cruel and violent man who served with the USSR's Spetsnaz in the early 1960s. However, his crimes were eventually discovered, which led to his supposed execution. Surviving a fatal gunshot to the head thanks to his newly discovered mutant abilities, Rossovich was court-martialed and forced into the USSR's own super soldier project after the potential of his abilities was noticed. Rossovich underwent years of experimental torture and enhancements that not only turned his skin chalk white but transformed him into a deadly cyborg who soon took the name Omega Red. He did shit much worse, but due to certain rules, I couldn't write them. You can check the fandom. The glow of his pod's biometric scanner pulsed yellow, showing incomplete synchronization. His latest cybernetic upgrade, a next-generation neural interface designed to push his combat efficiency beyond human limits, was still at 72% integration. Under normal conditions, the process would take another 48 hours to complete, but Dreykov had no time for patience. Command center, Ivanov, Dreykov barked, eyes locked on the surveillance screens. Override containment failsafes. Wake him up. Ivanov hesitated. His thick fingers hovered over the terminal's final authorization key. Sir, the cybernetic fusion isn't complete. We have no idea how unstable, do it. Dreykov's voice cracked with raw desperation. Now. Ivanov swore under his breath and slammed his fist against the console. Deep containment level, Omega Red's pod, the stasis fluid drained with a deafening roar, hissing steam rolling across the floor as the chamber's temperature rose from -200 degrees Celsius to 35 degrees Celsius in seconds. Hydraulic clamps hissed and released, their steel locks disengaging one by one. Inside the pod, a pair of burning crimson eyes snapped open, the biometric scanner turned red. Subject, Rosevich, Arkady Grigorovich. Codename, Omega Red. Status, reawakening, forced manual override. Cybernetic synchro, 72%, the air was thick with smoke and the scent of burning metal. The corridor leading to Dreykov's office was eerily silent, save for the distant hum of flickering lights and the low hiss of sparking wires. Bodies of elite guards lay scattered across the floor, their weapons still clutched in lifeless fingers. At the far end of the hallway, a grand staircase spiraled upward to the command center. Tony moved forward. His systems had already mapped out the layout of the top floor. Dreykov was cornered. No escape, you bastard. But as he neared the stairs, his HUD flickered with an urgent warning. Warning, unknown energy signature detected, highly volatile, extreme caution advised. Tony stopped in his tracks. The temperature around him suddenly dropped, his breath fogging up inside his helmet. A deep, guttural mechanical growl rumbled from the shadows above. Then, heavy, metallic footsteps echoed down the staircase. A figure emerged. 0.7 feet of towering, muscle-bound monstrosity encased in pale, cybernetic enhancements. His chalk-white skin was lined with deep, vein-like circuits pulsing with red energy. His long, unkempt blonde hair swayed slightly as he exhaled, and his eyes glowed like one of those freaks from the Terminator movie. 2 thick, segmented metal tendrils unfurled from his back with a sickening clank, twitching like the fangs of a serpent. Tony's HUD identified him instantly. Subject identified, Arkady Grigorovich Rosevich, code name, Omega Red, status, active, extremely hostile, intruder. Omega Red rumbled, his voice carrying a mechanical distortion. He stepped forward, the floor beneath him groaning under his weight. His eyes narrowed. You are not widow. Not soldier. Who are you? Tony tilted his head. Wouldn't you like to know, Frostbite? Omega Red's tendrils lashed forward. Tony dodged, just barely. The steel whip slammed into the wall behind him, shattering it like paper. The entire hallway trembled as debris rained from above. Those things hit like a damn wrecking ball. Before he could retaliate, Omega Red lunged. His speed was unnatural for his size, thanks to his enhancements. Tony barely had time to raise his arms before a massive fist slammed into his chest. Boom, he rocketed backward, smashing through several walls before tumbling across the floor, his suit's impact dampeners struggling to absorb the force. Armor integrity, 89%. Okay, Tony muttered, shaking off the hit. That sucked. Omega Red stalked forward, slow and deliberate. His tendrils scraped against the floor, leaving deep gashes in the steel. Your suit, advanced technology. Not government. Not shield. Not red room. He grinned, sharp teeth glinting under the red emergency lights. I will tear it apart and upgrade myself even further. Tony's gauntlets shifted. Twin repulsors flared to life, crackling with unstable energy. Come try, Tin Man. Omega Red moved. Tony fired. A blinding blue-white repulsor beam lanced forward, slamming into Omega Red's chest, only for it to dissipate against his reinforced plating. The massive mutant barely flinched before one of his tendrils snapped forward, wrapping around Tony's wrist. Warning, foreign energy surge detected. A sickly red glow pulsed through the tendril. Tony's systems screamed in warning, that freak was siphoning power straight from his arc reactor. Shit. Tony tried to yank free, but Omega Red tightened his grip. You feel it, yes? Omega Red sneered, his voice thick with sadistic amusement. My carbonadium tendrils leech life. Power. Strength. Soon, you will be nothing. Tony's vision flickered. His power levels were dropping at an alarming rate. If he didn't break free now, he had no choice. With a snarl, Tony deployed a concentrated pulse burst from his gauntlet. A concussive shockwave erupted from his suit, sending Omega Red staggering back. Tony stumbled, his system struggling to reboot. Power levels, 61%, Jesus, he drained almost half my damn juice in seconds. Omega Red recovered instantly, grinning like a predator who had just found the perfect prey. Interesting. Your power, unlike anything I have ever seen. He extended his tendrils again. I will take it all. Tony clenched his fists. His suit was already adapting, recalibrating energy shields to resist the carbonadium effect. But it wouldn't hold up forever, gotta end this fast. Activating advanced weaponry, the nanites on his shoulders shifted, forming two multi-barrel plasma launchers. Tony raised them. Eat this, Snow White. He fired, wind streams of high-energy plasma tore through the air, searing toward Omega Red. The massive mutant crossed his arms, his cybernetic enhancements absorbing most of the impact, but the sheer force sent him skidding backward. Before he could counter, Tony followed through. He rushed forward, boosters in his boots igniting as he closed the gap in an instant. His gauntlet morphed into a blade, vibranium-tipped, and slashed. Slice, Omega Red roared as a deep gash opened across his chest. Cybernetic fluid and blood spilled onto the floor. But instead of retreating, he grinned. You bleed, Tony taunted. So do you. Omega Red's fist slammed into Tony's ribs. The impact was devastating. Tony felt the shock reverberate through his entire body. The nanites absorbed and released the kinetic energy out, to minimize the damage. Suddenly, the floor collapsed. Tony fell, slamming into the level below. His HUD flickered violently. Dang. Kinetic dampers really need work. He noticed the flaw in his design. The nanites in charge of kinetic energy dispersion weren't working properly, and the excess energy within the nanites was causing internal collision, resulting in his suit damage. Thus, the nanites in charge of fixing were working overtime, drawing more power than he calculated. And gotta optimize Legion further. Well, got enough data thanks to this fight. Critical damage, internal structure compromised, armor integrity, 42%, Tony groaned. His nanites were already working overtime to repair the damage, but Omega Red wasn't giving him a chance. He wanted to use the nanite swarm, but he used too much already while healing the widows and fighting this long. He couldn't afford to waste any more. The mutant descended through the hole, landing like a war machine. He lifted Tony by the throat, his tendrils coiling around his limbs, locking him in place. You are strong, Omega Red admitted, his grip tightening. But not strong enough. The carbonadium tendrils pulsed again. Tony's suit screamed in warning, his vision blurred. His power levels dropped. I can't take any more damage. Well, got enough data. Now, time to amp it up a bit. Power levels, 15%, he had seconds before Omega Red drained him dry. There was only one option left. A last resort. His fingers twitched over the emergency override, engaging overdrive mode. Overdrive mode, activated. The nanites in Tony's suit shifted violently, surging like liquid metal. The arc reactor in his chest pulsed, drawing 5 times more energy than before. The nanites inside his body began to fuse with the outer suit, and the arc reactor's energy was replenished almost instantly. His idea of creating a secondary power source back then came in handy now. His suit transformed, the black armor expanded, its design becoming sharper and more aggressive. Red, glowing lines etched across the plating, pulsating with raw energy. His gauntlets expanded, repulsor cores burning hotter than ever before. His helmet's HUD adjusted, adapting to the new surge of power. His strength was multiplied, his speed was enhanced, his weapon systems were recalibrated for maximum lethality. Omega Red's tendrils tightened. Tony grinned. Fun's over, asshole. With a massive shockwave, Tony released a concentrated energy beam from his arc reactor, blasting Omega Red away in a violent explosion. The mutant slammed through multiple walls, his body embedding into reinforced steel. Tony stood, his overdrive mode fully engaged, red energy crackling like lightning around his body that he flexed his fingers. His suit hummed like a goddamn supernova. Omega Red growled, pulling himself from the wreckage, eyes burning with fury. Tony smirked. Round 2, motherfucker. Omega Red snarled, blood and cybernetic fluid dripping from the deep wounds Tony had inflicted. His mechanical tendrils lashed violently, carving trenches into the steel floor as he prepared to strike again, but Tony was done playing games. His overdrive-enhanced systems were pulling an insane amount of power from his arc reactor, but he got more than enough juice to run them. Every servo, every repulsor, every ounce of nanite-infused energy had been pushed to the limit. Omega Red wanted a monster. Tony Stark would give him one. He launched forward with explosive speed. Boom. Before Omega Red could react, Tony's fist slammed into his gut with the force of a wrecking ball. The impact folded the mutant in half, sending a shockwave rippling through his entire frame. Crack. The sound of cybernetics snapping filled the room. Omega Red coughed, spitting out a mix of blood and hydraulic fluid. Tony didn't stop. He grabbed Omega Red's head and drove his knee into his face. Once. Twice. A third time. Bang. 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 The reinforced cartilage in Omega Red's nose shattered. Blood gushed down his face as he reeled back, stunned. But Tony wasn't finished. He reached out, grabbed one of Omega Red's infamous carbonadium tendrils mid-swing, and ripped it out with a brutal yank. Afgaff. Omega Red howled in agony as sparks erupted from the severed appendage, his entire body convulsing. His nerves were directly linked to those tendrils, meaning Tony had just delivered searing, unimaginable pain. Hurts, doesn't it? Tony growled. Good. Before Omega Red could recover, Tony twisted the torn tendril around his gauntlet, superheating it with a focused repulsor blast. Then, without hesitation, he plunged the red-hot metal straight through Omega Red's shoulder. Shunk. The mutant screamed as the molten metal impaled him, pinning him to the reinforced wall behind him. His remaining tendril flailed wildly, but Tony was already moving. He grabbed the second tendril and ripped it out just like the first. Omega Red howled again, his body jerking violently from the intense pain. His pride was gone now. You like draining people? Tony spat, his voice a mixture of anger and disgust. Let's see how you like it. He raised his gauntlet and activated a powerful reverse energy siphon, targeting Omega Red's failing cybernetics. The mutant convulsed as his own life force was yanked away, his body spasming as his enhancements flickered in and out. His strength, gone, his speed, gone, his invincibility, gone. Omega Red, the infamous terror of the Soviet Union, the Red Room's ultimate weapon, now lay slumped against the wall, barely clinging to consciousness. Tony knelt down, his helmet retracting to reveal his face. His expression was cold. Unforgiving. I could kill you, Tony said softly, tilting his head. Snap your neck. Vaporize your body. Leave you as a pile of ash. Omega Red wheezed, barely able to keep his eyes open. But that's too easy, Tony continued. You don't deserve easy. He reached down, grabbing Omega Red by his ruined cybernetic throat. Sparks flickered from the damaged implants. I want to kill you slowly and painfully, Tony whispered. But sadly, I don't have time to waste on a failure like you. So, you gotta go. He yanked out the implant and then punched his fist into Red's chest, crushing the mutant's heart, and then to stop his healing factor, Tony fried his nervous system and incinerated his body to ashes after taking his blood sample. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and like for latest videos.